So this is what this might look like if you were to illustrate it. From layer one, the institutional research and college data, we get a sense of who is entering, who is finishing, who is with us along the way, and we get some sense of their academic progress. We get a sense of who is the high achievers and who are the low achievers. And then from layer two, we get information about completer and alumni data. So from that, we get a sense of who is employed in field, who is employed out of field. So when we look at the results of that, we find that there are some people who are employed in field who are high achievers, some people who are employed in field but perhaps are lower achievers. There are some people who are lower achievers but they're employed below average achievers who are employed in field. Then some folks who leave the program around the midway point for whatever reason, both high achieving and low achieving. Some people who enter the program and leave perhaps because they get an industry certification or they get some other sort of employment. So students sort of distribute themselves along a scatter plot kind of structure. And then what we do for layer three is we take a look back over their journeys. So if you take, for example, Lisa, who we just heard about. So Lisa finished in 2 years. She's employed in field, and she's a fairly high achiever. She's got a 3.2. So I think we can say Lisa's probably this dot right here. And then we know from looking at Lisa's journey that she had 6 influencers in her second year, 2 hindrances, and 1 critical juncture. So she had a pretty good year, but she had that 1 critical juncture right near the end. But she kept going. And then in her year 2, she had 2 hindrances. She, in year 1, she had 2 influencers, 1 hindrance, and 1 critical juncture. So we know that for Lisa, there were a couple of low points, but really several high points that are worth remarking about. And so if we were to chart other students, like let's say, for example, Curtis, who had a pretty easy time during the end of his studies, but it took him a little bit to really kind of get going. We notice he had a little bit of a rough start, and he identified a couple of critical junctures for us. And then we'll look at another student, we'll call her Zoe. Zoe had a really good second year, but her first year was very rough. And she, in fact, left, but came back and struggled throughout her first year. And then if we continue to do these interviews and identify people's hindrances and influencers and critical junctures, if we interview to saturation, we start to identify some commonalities and some crossovers. And these are places where we can target services, where we can improve services, and where we can know that students need and benefit from support.